Today, you and I are entering the inner chamber of the eighth house, not the surface mind, not ordinary emotion, but the place of hidden pain, betrayal, secrecy, crisis, psychological transformation, sexual intensity, and deep emotional memory. So when Pitta increases in the eighth house, the fire does not stay in the body alone. It enters the mind, the emotions, and the unconscious. The eighth house already governs what is buried, difficult to process, and difficult to control. Pitta adds heat, sharpness, penetration, intensity, and the urge to dominate what feels threatening. That is why this slide names such precise mental and emotional patterns. Obsession with control, intense psychological transformation, anger linked to betrayal, penetrating psychological insight, rage buried deep, jealousy, revenge, impulses, intense sexual transformation. These are not separate traits. They belong to one core pattern, hidden fire trying to master hidden pain. Obsession with control. The eighth house rules what cannot be fully controlled: loss, exposure, betrayal, vulnerability, sexuality, emotional merging, and sudden transformation. Pitta does not like uncertainty. It wants order, precision, command. So when Pitta rises here, the psyche often forms a survival strategy. If I can control the situation, I will not be wounded. If I can read every hidden motive, I will not be betrayed. If I stay ahead of everyone psychologically, I will remain safe. This is why the person may become highly perceptive, cautious, private, suspicious of hidden agendas, and emotionally guarded. This is not casual control. It is defensive control born from inner intensity. Intense psychological transformation. The eighth house does not transform through comfort. It transforms through rupture. And when Pitta enters this house, that transformation becomes fiery. The person may go through repeated inner deaths and rebirths. Old attachments, emotional defenses, and false identities are burned away through painful psychological confrontations. This can make the native profound and fearless, but it can also make them severe with themselves. Pitta wants truth. The eighth house reveals truth through crisis. So the life becomes a series of deep emotional confrontations that force the person to evolve. Anger linked to betrayal. In this house, anger is rarely simple. It is usually linked to broken trust, emotional exposure, sexual hurt, humiliation, manipulation, hidden disloyalty. Because Pitta is sharp, the psyche does not forget these wounds easily. It studies them, replays them, analyzes them, and because the eighth house buries what is painful, the anger may not be expressed immediately. It goes underground. It becomes stored heat. The person may appear calm outside while inwardly carrying a fire that never fully went out. That is why eighth house Pitta often produces buried rage rather than obvious anger. Penetrating psychological insight. Now, here is the gift inside the fire. The eighth house sees beneath the surface. Pitta cuts through layers. So, in a refined form, this combination gives exceptional psychological perception. The person may read motives, contradictions, emotional undercurrents, power struggles, sexual tension, and hidden wounds with unusual clarity. They do not trust appearances. They want the truth beneath the performance. This can make them powerful healers, therapists, astrologers, researchers, or guides through trauma and transformation. But when wounded, this gift distorts. Insight becomes suspicion. Perception becomes interrogation. Truth-seeking becomes emotional warfare. Rage buried deep. The emotional life here is volcanic. The slide says rage buried deep, and that is exact. The anger sinks into the unconscious, where it mixes with shame, grief, desire, fear, and memory. Then it intensifies. So the emotional pattern is not always dramatic on the outside. But inwardly, the person may carry unresolved combustion that can erupt under the right trigger. This is why the eighth house Pitta person can feel emotionally dangerous to themselves and to others when unhealed. The issue is not merely anger, it is compressed emotional fire. Jealousy here is not light insecurity. It is fear of deep loss, replacement, or emotional invasion. The eighth house rules intimate bonding and energetic merging. Pitta wants intensity and exclusivity in what it values. So if trust is threatened, jealousy becomes heated, investigative, and consuming. The person may want to know every hidden detail, not out of curiosity, but because the threat feels existential. This is why jealousy in this house often has a forensic quality. The psyche wants to uncover everything. Revenge impulses. This is one of the shadow expressions of 8th house Pitta. Revenge arises when pain is not purified. It becomes weaponized instead. The 8th house remembers deeply. Pitta remembers with heat. So when the person feels deeply betrayed, they may want not just justice but reversal of power. They want the betrayer to feel the same wound. This may express openly, or it may become silent distance, emotional cutoff, strategic coldness, or permanent withdrawal of trust. The outer behavior may differ, but the inner principle is the same. Wounded fire wants power restored. Intense sexual transformation. This house also rules deep sexuality, intimacy, merging, taboo, and emotional exposure. When Pitta rises here, sexuality becomes powerful, transformative, consuming, and psychologically charged. It may manifest as erotic intensity, deep magnetism, desire mixed with vulnerability, intimacy that changes identity, attraction to truth, exposure, confession, and total merging. But the shadow is equally real. If wounded, sexuality can become tied to control, jealousy, revenge, fear of surrender, or emotional domination. This is why 8th house Pitta must be handled with maturity. The same fire can create sacred intimacy or destructive entanglement. The overall pattern. The slide summarizes the pattern beautifully. Inflammation plus toxicity plus hormonal heat plus crisis-driven transformation. And psychologically, that means change comes through burning and intensity. This person does not change casually. They change through betrayal crisis, emotional exposure, loss of control, hidden truth, surfacing sexual and psychological intensity, deep inner purging. In its lower form, this becomes obsession, resentment, jealousy, revenge, and secrecy. In its higher form, it becomes courage, depth, emotional truth, sacred intimacy, and the power to guide others through darkness. Sun and Mars. In this pattern, the slide shows Sun and Mars, and that matters. The Sun gives core fire, pride, identity, dignity, and inner sovereignty. In the 8th house psyche, the Sun makes betrayal especially scorching because it wounds the core self. Mars gives sharp anger, confrontation, reaction, force, and the impulse to strike back. Mars in the 8th does not tolerate hidden enemies, emotional games, or powerlessness. So together, Sun gives burning wounded pride, Mars gives reactive force. Sun says, I must not be diminished. Mars says, I must not be defeated. That is why this pattern can feel psychologically armed. Final teaching. So what should you remember? When Pitta rises in the 8th house, the fire enters the hidden psyche. It can become control because the person fears vulnerability. It can become rage because betrayal cuts deep. It can become jealousy because intimacy feels total. It can become revenge because pain seeks power. And it can become profound insight because this person sees through masks. The lower expression is psychological toxicity. The higher expression is sacred alchemy. So the real question is not, is there fire? The real question is the fire purifying the psyche or poisoning it? That is how you must read 8th house Pitta with depth.